Here.
Councilman Kiefer.
Here.
Councilman Belt.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Supervisor Murray.
Here. Due to time constraints, we will not be taking public comment during this time. There will be time at the end of the regular meeting to comment on the wind amendments. At this time, we will hear from the representatives from Energy. If you'd like to stand at the podium.
You want to go first?
Sure, I can start with the
Okay, sure.
Can you hear me from here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Grossman. I'm with Energy, a project development manager and part of the Barren Winds project team. Just want to provide a few brief updates on the Barren Winds project. It's only been a month since we last spoke with you, so not too much has changed. I'll begin the permitting though. As you know, we submitted the Article 10 application last fall, and since then, the New York Department of Public Service has posed a few questions, requested a bit more additional information, to which we've submitted our latest response, and we are just waiting for additional comments and requests for information. The second update is with regards to turbine selection. Turbine selection is not yet finalized, as we spoke about at the last meeting, due in part to the wind law being finalized here in the town of Fremont. Just at a high level for turbine selection for any project, just kind of industry practice. It includes a detailed analysis of the wind data, which is collected over the course of a few years, and it captures multiple characteristics of the wind. Turbine manufacturers also examine the topography, the lay of the land, ensure that turbines can be delivered to site, pretty important. And then they also take a look at the local, state, and federal laws to ensure that the turbine type that is being recommended for site suitability is going to be able to comply. So that last piece right now we're missing, that piece of the puzzle to be able to communicate that to the turbine manufacturers. And we're very much looking forward to communicating that to them once the wind law amendments are finalized. That's it for the project updates. Happy to answer any questions right now or at the end.
Hi, my name is Tim Vogt. I'm a Senior Development Director for Energy. I've not been in this place before, but I have been working on the project from our offices in Chicago, so I'm aware of all of the ongoings of the project details, the application to the Article 10 process and whatnot, discussions that Leah and Chip have had here, as well as our other representatives over the past couple of years. Because of vacation schedules and whatnot, they asked me to come in here in their place. So first off, I want to thank you all. I know that in your positions as a public servant, you don't often get thanks, but recognizing that this issue that is being discussed tonight is not necessarily an easy one to either understand or implement. So thank you for all of the time and effort that you are all putting into this process. We certainly appreciate it, and I know that a number of members of the community do as well. So let me start with that. To the direct proposal for the ordinance, I think that we've had an opportunity to look at some of the things that have been proposed. I think that there are a couple of key points that are a bit concerning to us. As Leah mentioned, we haven't been able to define the turbine model yet. One of the provisions in the proposal is to effectively dictate certain technologies that need to be deployed in order to meet the sound requirements. I would recommend that if a sound level is established, put the onus on us to meet sound level, and not get into the business of dictating what particular technologies or turbines or other devices need to be employed to do that. If it's a black and white standard, it's a black and white threshold that we need to meet, and if we move forward with a project, we will meet the ordinance and we're stuck with the consequences. It's really should be that simple. So I think we can reduce some of the complexities of the ordinance by clarifying it at that point. One of the other topics that I think we have some concern with would be the ability for neighboring property owners to waive rights or waive certain conditions of the ordinance so that the facilities can be constructed. And they acknowledge that it may be exceeding some written ordinance levels of sound or shadow flicker or setbacks or other things. It's typical that those types of things are allowed. So it's our recommendation that they do be allowed as well here. And then the third point would be in the complaint resolution process. We fully acknowledge that there needs to be a formal process defined. We're fully willing to accept something that is reasonable, but I think there's a little bit of ambiguity in this particular proposal with mention of annoyance, requiring a buyout for annoyance. That's not really a very defined standard that we can meet or test. So I think we need to revisit that topic. So really, those are the key 3 points that we wanted to make sure that we discussed. So I'm certainly able and willing to entertain a discussion about any or those topics or others that you may have questions. And again, I've been in this business for over a decade, so I've worked all across the country. I've seen various issues, and one of the things that is I guess different potentially for me than you may have from others is that my father has 4 of these wind turbines on his property. So I've been in the business and I've seen it from the landowner's perspective as well. So I may have a little bit of a different perspective and answer questions in a different way than somebody who is just a developer trying to come in your community and do this without having that firsthand experience. So with that, I guess I'll turn it back to you.
We can start right off with what Mike sent the email, the 3 things you just went over. Now, the good neighbor agreement, when someone signs it, they waive noise, shadow flicker, and setback, correct?
Potentially.
Okay. So why that was taken out, it was redundant wording. Because they can, basically when someone signs that, the law does not protect them anymore. So just having that in the shadow flicker area, it was just redundant to have it there. And that was the reason why that was removed. On April 17th, we met, Councilman Kiefer and I met with representatives from Everpower at the time. And we agreed to 42 dBA at night. And we moved some setbacks and different things that we wanted. And that was something that we agreed to. A few weeks went by, that was okay. And then about a week before the meeting, that level could not be obtainable. So then we went back to the drawing board and came up with a negotiation to put in the quiet models with the serrated blades. And that's where that came from. And now here we are again, and you guys can't do that.
Well, the thing that needs to be remembered is that some of the manufacturers don't have the serrated edges. That is the distinction in that we have a number of manufacturers, for example, GE or Vestas, and each approach sound differently. And that's, for example, one has serrated edges, one has a flex in the tip of the blade. I mean, there's different ways.
Whale tails, they call them different things.
Correct,
But they all
right.
do the same.
Right. So, but again, just to leave the flexibility to us to select the particular approach is what we're asking for.
But that was an agreed upon item to come to 45 dBA. Could we go back to the 42 at night?
I'm not sure exactly what so getting to the sound topic, I think that part of the discussion was about what scale is being used. I think that we've got clarity on some of the proposals here versus the L.
LEQ versus
LEQ,
L10.
correct.
So our original law from 2008 used L10.
Mm-hmm.
It was defined in there, and when I went through it all, I went with the L10, figuring we could discuss it. The L10 seemed more protective of our residents, and it seemed a little clearer. It's can't go any higher than that for a 6-minute period versus hour, average.
Right.
Which it could go up to 70 or 80, during that hour and be down to 30 and average out at 45. So, I mean, maybe we could put in a maximum
Of,
sound.
do you have a limit? Would,
I mean, the L10 would probably be pretty protected.
right, but at what sound level?
45.
45.
And then we originally agreed with 42 at night, from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then we negotiated, because they didn't like that, to have the serrated blades and the quiet models. So we just feel like we've given and given and given, and then you guys keep coming back to the table saying, nope, we can't do that. And it's just, it's frustrating.
This is what the holdup is.
Right, but Leah, I think you're probably closer to the sound levels.
Yeah.
Probably have to defer to you on the particulars on the level.
So I would say the L10 versus the LEQ, my understanding is that LEQ is what's being used throughout the Article 10 process in terms of the sound discussions. So for, similarity and parity, I think we would probably prefer to look at LEQ. However, I really prefer to be able to talk to our noise consultants about it, because they're the experts and I don't want to speak on behalf of the experts, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think that brochure you have right there is going back to
Yeah, I
our
think-
original negotiations over the last few months.
Right, and I don't see the specific topic addressed in what I'm looking at here.
The meeting was at, what date is that happening?
I have one from April 4.
Okay, we met April 17th.
I have one from April 17 as well.
And during that meeting, we negotiated, we took the setbacks from 2,000 feet to 1,500, and we negotiated 42 dBA at night.
Okay. So I guess what I'm looking at here is the proposed change. Is it 40? In
Yeah, it says 40 on this.
I guess that's part of my question.
Oh, that was another, that's annual average.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah,
annual
8 hours.
average that they agreed to. It was something that came out in Casadega. So they said we could add that in.
So what the proposal is on the table today is that 50 at offsite property lines and 45 at exterior walls.
Correct.
Okay.
With the quiet turbines and serrated blades.
My point though is that the onus should be on us to use whatever is required to meet those levels, so that the last 2/3 of the paragraph after 40 dBA LEQ 8 hours is effectively limiting our ability to put the appropriate technology on the site.
But that was a negotiated item to go to 45 at night.
Can you go quieter than you rate? I mean, you might shoot for 45, but maybe you can get something that's better and say, we're gonna come in at 43.
Well,
We're gonna
that's
do better.
a good question. And really the project is spread out over a very large area, and we've got some residences that are gonna be closer than others. So we're gonna have a very small number of the properties that are actually gonna be within this level, as I understand it. So that I'm hoping that we're really gonna be seeing a few turbines that this may be an issue for. But beyond that, I really don't know how to address the topic other than, each particular machine, when we do our modeling, we are able to predict what the sound levels will be, and we are then able to understand if it's able to operate in its full mode, if it will have an issue or not. And given a particular location, there are ways to adapt the operations of a machine.
Yeah, the NRO mode.
Correct, right, to do that. So,
Okay, yeah.
so I think that our preference would be to allow us to use that for machines that don't necessarily have the serrated edges.
But did we not agree to do that?
Yeah, they did not
said
want to
they
do
would
that.
not- They didn't want to do that.
Because 42 would have put too many turbines into NRO mode, and then they didn't want to go out and meet with the public and have them sign good neighbor agreements there wasn't enough staff to do that. You know, ultimately, we're trying to have a project that everyone's happy with, we're all proud of.
We want to get it done too. Unfortunately, I think that, you know, we need to have our sound experts, you know, take a closer look at this particular proposal as far as what this impact may be with the different mechanisms that we can employ to make sure that the sound level is met.
So they haven't looked at it since we discussed it?
They looked at it, I guess, and remodeled it, and came back to us, and then this is what we negotiated. We met with Seth and Stephanie and, was it Spencer?
I just have a clarifying question, since Tim and I weren't present April 17th for that meeting. So was the intent during the negotiation, you know, with regards to the technology, sound or noise reducing technology to be employed, whether serrated edges or NRO mode, versus the change in 42 to 45? Was the intent with the language to reduce I guess I'm trying to understand, what was the idea that, you know, you're trying to hit the target of 45, or it's that the technology is, you know, bringing it even lower
The
from your
technology
perspective?
would help out with infrasound too,
Okay.
and low frequency noise too, the serrated waves help out a lot with that. That was important. And then Seth and Stephanie and, was it Bill Spencer? They brought the best of manual and showed us that they can get down to 103.9 with the quiet models. So, and that's kind of where we were going with this. You know, they showed us there are quiet models that can be produced. And
Right.
kind of a negotiated item.
That man does.
Yes.
Right. You know, and I actually just looked at a project the other day. Actually, there's a list in this presentation from the 17th showing various sound levels. One of the machines I looked at for a different project had 110 decibel level. I mean, obviously that's not necessarily going to be a good choice for this project.
No, it's not.
Again, you know, even employing the serrated edges would reduce that by a few decibels. So again, that is something that would not work. But I guess the point is that, you know, we have a suite of 15 different models that may be employed for the project, and at this point, you know, having a commitment to do a particular technology limits that possibility. And what we are looking for is the optimized project. We need to keep in mind that sound is only one of many considerations that we need to use in siting these facilities. And, you know, is shadow flickering, is sound, is setbacks and properties, is who's participating, who's willing to sign the good neighbor agreements. It's where the environmental constraints are, where we have to avoid wetlands or sensitive resources. All of those considerations go together. When we do basically our wind energy calculations, you know, we get a production estimate and that we are then able to use to verify whether or not the economics of the project are going to work out. So, you know, it's really hard for us to look at a particular issue in isolation. And you know, looking at the notes from this meeting is that, you know, I don't necessarily see that the compromise from our perspective was fully agreed with the serrated edge. Again, Lee and I weren't here, so we can't really confirm
I'll show
tonight.
you emails.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so I unfortunately that wasn't shared with me, but
I mean, moving forward, we can move back to the 42 and 9 and get rid of that other, and then you guys can pick your models.
Would you just mind providing us the opportunity to talk with our sound experts and coming back to it?
How long are we gonna
Would
take?
you-
Yeah, how long is that gonna take?
Let's say sometime next week. Is that okay? Is that too long?
It's another
I know
month
it's-
dragged out.
I know.
You know, this is the thing, every time we get a email from one department or another, it seems like we need the best what's gonna work for us, and us being them, or you, the wind company. And some of that is okay, but we're on the other side of that, and us should be all just working it together, and that's not what's happening.
And I feel like you're taking